Hi, this is Veruschka Normandeau on the Big Island, Hawaii. I'm a healing arts coach, and today I invited a very special guest, another special guest, who I've met by the grace of Facebook that has definitely, I can't actually pay for the amount of goodness of the amazing connections it's brought me this year, including catching my attention through the power of images of flowers and palm trees and sharing the significance of the palm trees right when the palm trees had been speaking to me. So I connected with the wonderful flower essence practitioner, Annemarie Minke. She's located in New York State and works at Omega Institute. Welcome, Annemarie. What do you call yourself or refer to yourself, and what are some of the expressions you've been sharing yourself through?
Hi, Veruschka. Well, I've been given the title 3 years ago of Flower Vibration Integration Healer. So that is the title I right now still use. I am a certified flower essence practitioner. In 2006, I took a course with Delta Gardens. And that was more for fun. It was more, I did it because I was enjoying myself, never knowing this would become my profession and my gift and my joy, and using the tool of communicating with flowers. So there's more. So the reason the title Certified Flower Essence Practitioner is, of course, part of it as well, but it's not the only thing I do with it. I use flowers to guide me, and also to where there's discord in a person's or in a group, imbalance, when there's imbalance in a group setting or in a person. So I'm guided, and then I've got the gift. The integration part comes in that moment. I'm able to integrate this flower into the person and transmute the energy or the flower. I don't know exactly how it actually happens. It's of course not me doing it. It's always the person themselves. But there's an alchemy happening where energy gets transmuted right there. It's like a 180-degree transformation that happens very fast. And so that's why the vibrational. So it's moving vibrations, moving energy, using flowers. Mm-hmm. That's as far as I've understood this whole long title.
Beautiful. Well, I find it's always really hard to communicate with people when I say, oh, I have some flower essences here, Hawaiian flower essences, that are really beneficial. I think first thing people think of is like, oh, it must be spray. Oh, it must smell good. So immediately they go to fragrances or the concept of fragrances. Or if I give them a bottle, then it's kind of like, oh, where do I put it? Or they smell it. That's the first thing they do is smell it. And then I say, well, have you ever heard of Bach flower remedies? The principles are that it's vibrational, that it helps your emotional body. And it's still hard to convey, and I don't know if people really take it seriously, that this water, this vague water, is going to have any impact on them. So for people who are new to the concept, I mean, I put it in the category of energy medicine, of like the subtlety that is so powerful, and especially to more sensitive people on the subtle layers. But how do you present it to newcomers?
Well, I love it that you're bringing this up, because obviously I'm facing very similar responses, and I don't necessarily have many clients or customers, or however you want to call them, who know about flower essences either, although I know the people, but I usually describe it a little bit different as I don't say this is a flower essence. I just say I do vibrational frequency healing. It's the vibrational frequency. I don't necessarily say essence. I use the word vibration because it is moving energy. And then I also explain to people who also there's Masuru, I think that's his name. I forgot now for a minute.
Dr. Emoto.
Yes, he actually came through at some point, and he was my guide for one moment, and we was laughing because he's very funny, and so I use his techniques to let people know, when there's a whole book about it. Many people know about him more than about essences, and that brings more understanding. And I have started to add essential oils for people to be more receptive to the scent. Through scent, they grasp it more. So especially at Omega, I actually created a few standard blends which apply to many, and I can also make a custom blend, but I created it there. It started with, of course, the title I have is vibrational integration, that those two words, not essence. And at Omega, because of alcohol, etc., in the tinctures that we make, they prefer you not to do that. So I said, well, I'm using a spray anyway, so don't worry. And then using the spray, I add the essential oils, which I brought home from Egypt when I was there in 2014, which is very high vibration, because essential oils usually don't work. Well, they don't always work with the vibrations of an essence, because it's such a specific energy. So these essential oils are very pleasing, and I call them sacred sacred space clearing sprays, or sacred enhancing sprays for your personal space. Many people know about space clearing, but they don't necessarily then say, well, let's enhance our space. So that brings people more to the connection. And I've taken a few courses just to understand what people understand, because I wasn't able to relay the message very well. And I just did a Qigong course that was offered actually at Omega, and I was part of it. And that's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. It's moving energy. And so that's, I sometimes ask people, like, who do you relate to when it comes to this energy healing? Because, and for me, I'm not a teacher per se. I am more there to, I connect with people, or they come to me automatically, not to learn what is a flower essence. I'm more like, you know what, I'm going to be able to help you with what this is. If you need understanding of what it exactly is, of course I go into detail, but I don't spend my time much anymore explaining to people what it is. Understood. So that is and then also, like, particularly where you're tying into the flower essences, then how do you apply it to people? There's another question that probably follows out of that. And so I meet somebody for an hour and a half, depending on the needs. And the flowers actually also have evolved, which you very well know. And so the plant kingdom has evolved, and so just as people have, and especially since 2012, every time they keep evolving. And then, so there's newer messages. I'm not sure if we're the ones that are able to now hear their higher messages, or that they have also evolved to that new level, and are able to give new messages for the new times we're in. And so, because you referred to Dr. Bach, and so obviously I do too, but of course, always. And I did start with him before I took the course. I did use Bach essences, and rescue remedy, for instance, comes from that. People understand it then when you say rescue remedy. And so for 10 years, and I was so in tune with that for a while. And I still use Bach, of course. But before Bach, there was, in Egypt, they used vibrational energies as well, using flowers. So it's not something that Bach discovered. I think he just brought it to the forefront again. And what was I going to say about this? So understanding, so what my particular, so I'm taking it away from your question a little bit, like how to describe what is an essence. It's more like why am I doing what I'm doing, since there are already so many that before you and me that have, the pioneers in the 80s and the 70s, who I've learned from so much, and who have very different energy. The 80s, very masculine, and the essence, the people creating those essences are very different energy. Same flower, new messages are coming in now. And so I'm specifically guided to tap into these new messages, the higher messages. And when I say higher, it's not that something else is lower. Higher and lower to me doesn't mean less or more or better or worse. It's just a different frequency. And there are times when I tune into people and I can't get to a specific issue with my essences or vibrations, frequencies in that bottle. And so then I tap into, for instance, David Dalton, who does more medicinal work, but he's also more from the 70s. So that energy is reached more easily if I use somebody's essences from that time. And then I use right now a lot. I always have the Dutch Netherlands flowers. So in general, I produce my own flower essences. More and more I use those. But once in a while, I go back to the ones that went before us as well, because mixing them is, I think, very important as well. It's like different vibrations, mixing them. Why can't I get through a core issue with what I've got? Because sometimes people just can't reach that level, simply because I'm bringing them there, but they're not there yet to whatever level they are supposed to reach. So I take them back. I also go back to Bach and I say, well, this is just a slower process. 19th century, you can imagine. Come back in 6 weeks and we'll do the next step. Well, we're in 2016. We don't have 6 weeks. In an hour, you could transmute this energy. So that's how I explain it more to people, as to why are there so many more people now, young people especially, coming through and working with these let's call it the new energies. Mm-hmm. Because it gets confusing when you say higher and lower. People misunderstand it very, language is specific. And so it's more like the new energies for the new times we're in. And the new times, what does that mean? It means like, find it within yourself. All these essences that you make yourself, because I've just experienced your essences as well, are all about centering yourself, bringing you into your own core, not finding it outside of yourself. There is no guru that's going to solve your problem. Mm-hmm. He's there to help you, but not necessarily going to do it for you.
Mm-hmm. Wow. I mean, I already have about 20 questions for you, but just from that sharing alone, I have 100 new ones. So I'd like to roll out the carpet a little more for the listeners. This is just, I'm buzzing. I'm excited. I love that you brought up that the individual flowers are evolving and having new things to communicate. I mean, that's so beautiful that's something I'm not thinking about. When I first came here to Hawaii 3 years ago, and I was going through a lot of transition, and I would just start taking walks around the neighborhood. The flowers just started, laughing at me and connecting with me. So I started photographing them and sharing them on Facebook. And someone, an energy worker in Florida, wrote, "These are antennas to God." Mm-hmm. These are God's antennas. And it just like with that, it's almost like we get these pieces that are puzzle pieces, that started a download literally. And what I think is so interesting is how who initiates this connection with the flower. Who becomes you. I read that you said that you're a keeper of the flower codes. Can you share how that evolved for you, how that transpired, how that evolves, and how that still shows up? I know that's a lot.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, like when you travel to these places, do you go there with an intention of, oh, I want to make flower essences there to bring back, or is all of it just intuitive in the moment?
Yes. Great questions. So both questions. So keeper of the flower codes is, I would like to answer that question, how I got that. And it's also a little tricky, you know, people might think a little, I don't really mind what people think, but I do want everybody, the listeners, to understand also, you know, the possibilities of how did I understand, just like you're saying, the flower started to talk to you. And so I went through an awakening. And the other question, you'll have to, if you don't mind, repeat that in a minute also, if I lose track of yes. And so I woke up literally overnight, and it was not a pleasant experience per se, because I was very scared when it happened. This is May 26th, 2013. And what happened is that actually a cat, my cat died, who had been very, she'd been guiding me on how to use the essences. I wasn't using them for people. This cat was healing with, you know, and she was very wise, and she was this priestess, but little did I know that she was really actually took away a part of me when she passed on. And that's a whole story in itself, what she took with her. But what happened is the plant king started to communicate with me, and made it very clear that what I was hearing wasn't crazy stuff. And so, keeper of the flower code, so I relived many lives, and I was shown how I was prepared for this particular life to do what I do, just like you do. So it's, I guess, you, in hindsight, I realize it's probably the Akashic records, but so I don't want to go too crazy on these past lives, because they're very personal, and I'd love to talk about them because they were very powerful as well. But one past life, it gets a little tricky, because I was reading this book, you know, The Shamanic Way of the Bee. And there was, as if there was a download that you're talking about as well, a download happening as I was reading it. And I was taken back to, you know, I don't know if it was 26,000 years ago, many years ago, where it felt like the earth was split or exploded, and I was the only one left. And I got this, it was more like dream form and symbolic. So it was a bee that told me I am the keeper of the flower code, but it was symbolic, and I'm the only one that's left from that generation, from that not a generation, from whatever era. Is it a planet? Is it, you're saying, are you a starseed? We all are from the dust, right? It's not really relevant, but so it gets tricky to explain it, even how the messages come. So you're the keeper of the flower codes for the new times we are in. That was very specific. And it was the Hathors that were my main guides, and still are. And so they kept through, and they kept confirming it. And every time I would try to change what they were saying, so like, you know, have little discussions with them, even like, no, it's not like this, you know, and they would be like,
you were negotiating.
Yes. Well, I didn't want the title they gave me, Flower Vibration Integration Healer. I kept saying, it's not flower vibration, it's flower essences. And they were like, no, it's flower vibrations. And I was like, you got the wrong person here. I said, I know I've not studied for this. I mean, I had discussions, so I thought I was going crazy. I'd have discussions, and I would go very angry. I would become at some point. I said, I am not equipped for this. I haven't studied anything about flower essences. I don't know anything, and I know who you should go talk to. So I sent him off to send.
Deflecting. You got
yes, I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. And my life became very difficult when I refused. And I was like, I'm not good enough. I wouldn't know what you mean. I don't even know what these plants mean. And I said, well, I haven't gone to school for this, so forget it. And they said, it's exactly because you haven't gone to school for this that you're the one, because you'll be doing this from your heart. And then they also shared, which I always like to add, because it's like they got my attention when they said, we think the school system on this planet is a little primitive. I mean, they're very funny. And they got my attention then because I thought so too. It's just like, because of what it...
Key code for you to almost trust them more, huh?
I started to trust myself more, because what they were... So I started to use the flowers for myself at first. And then they worked, I could see that I was just becoming more positive and more trusting. My big issue was trust. Warmer, whatever issues we have. And in particular, to stay positive in these times that we're in right now is to go through this upheaval that we're seeing in the world and just kind of know that we have a choice. And that's what the flowers have specifically also spoken about a lot and still do. And you sent me some essences as well. It's the same. It's that you do have a choice. You can choose to the positive. You could also choose negative or drama or whatever. But and often we do because that's what we know. You don't have to. You actually, and it might be very difficult to choose to be positive. But that's the only thing that matters. And positive meaning love, and this, and there's more to love than it's easy to say it's only love, but it's hard because it's a choice. So this is what's often, I think, misunderstood as well. Like, it's written, even writing, when you and I, or when I at first in particular wrote about the essences, it was always about the flowers. Positive form. At first I wasn't really allowed to say the negative because that's also keeping it alive. So, but then, and people didn't understand it was like that their issue was the negative that needed to be replaced by the positive. So I have started to explain a little bit more. It's, what positive means, because not everybody understands that's possible to just be positive.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that was a long answer to the keeper of the flower codes.
That's wonderful. So the next question was just, when you know that you're traveling to special far places like different islands that have their own environment, or Egypt, do you have a plan? Oh, I want to get, try to find these plants, or try to bring essences back, or what's your relationship or plan around that?
Love that question too, because it is important to me, and I'm specifically, so when I travel, I am not necessarily saying I need to make flower essences here, unless I know that I'm in Holland, for instance, the land of flowers. Then I kind of make it a point of making essences because of more like a memory of that trip. I don't go there to make essences. I go because I am from there and visit friends and vacation. And I make essences globally as souvenirs because I'm relaxed and I'm on vacation. And that also brings out a specific energy. So I don't make many when I travel. But when you're speaking about, you are living on an island in Hawaii, and I actually lived on an island for 2 years as well. And it was Roatan Island in Honduras, next to Belize. And there is a very specific energy there, which pertains, and I still haven't fully grasped it yet for me. I'll hopefully find out. And it has a very dual energy that's going on, and it's very close to the equator. And I always find myself when there's a full moon, then when it's magnified even more. The equator magnifies these vibrations, and the full moons do, and these eclipses, and so all my tropical essences come from Roatan, and they're very. It's very humbling experience to make them there and use them, because they are very much about the truth. That's an island, and I don't know if Hawaii. I think it's a little different in Hawaii. But Roatan Island, if you are coming there not in your truth, not in balance, you get knocked off your socks, no matter how. I've seen it with myself as well, by the way. And so these flowers are so they help bring you in balance. So it's a very specific energy. And Egypt, you brought up Egypt. I did go to Egypt, not to make flower essences, but to more discover what my task was using these flower essences, vibrations, and the depth of it. And also, reliving some past lives and what I was actually raised to do. And I went during the Cardinal Cross in 2014. I was supposed to go with that's another story in itself. I went solo with the guide. Nobody actually went because everybody was afraid. And I did make one flower essence, and it was the apple of Sodom. And so, I was cruising the night. And I did make 3 vibrational, environmental essences of 3 temples. So that's also, and the pyramid. So that, so it was. I went a little bit outside of my regular realm because I knew, because of the importance of that specific time frame that I went, that capturing that energy would be very useful for many people to come, and it has proven to be so.
Well, on that note, what you referred to earlier, that I guess about the integration and about the vibration, that what you're relaying and what my experience was with my connection with you is that there is a transference in the attention and intention alone of that remedy, because it was only because of you that I realized that environmental essences are possible. And that was the one day that you posted that environmental essence in Egypt, and we had that interaction. And so maybe you can speak more about how that's possible, that I see the flower and I read your description and I feel that I got exactly what I needed. And then later you confirmed, you said, you actually got the essence or the vibration. Right. And I'm like, well, I wasn't making it up then.
No.
So how can you share how the vibrational remedy works without needing to actually have it sprayed in your face?
Yes. Oh boy, you're asking good questions, and they're difficult sometimes for people to understand. But when you come from the principle, and this is what I learned from Tom Canyon, who does vibrational sound healing. So it's not just flowers that work, but it's all, thought form follow. So intent is followed by wherever you send your intentions is where your thoughts go. And no matter what you do, and also the fact that we're all connected is what you feel. And so there is a specific gift I have, that I am able to transmit this energy to you. And this is how powerful we are. I can transmit it by just through intent. I have sent energy to Fukushima, golden yarrow for, and yeah. So, and I know I'm not the only one, many people, but it does work, and it's very hard for many people to grasp that we are so powerful and kept small, because if we really knew how powerful we were, we wouldn't need governments or whatever. Let's not even think about that too much. But so the power we have has been suppressed a little bit. So if I say, and Facebook is, which you started off with introducing me with, that's how we met. It has this little code, and I don't know if you know about it as well. I've coded it in such a way, if you like what I post and it applies to you, then if you physically press like, it transmits the energy to you. And people think I do this and say this because I want more likes, and I really don't. I don't care, as long as I know people are looking at this a lot. They don't often, confirm it for themselves. I'm like, well, that's just a pity. But if you like it or don't like, I don't need somebody to like my post if it's false. So that's how you have received this energy as well. And also, I think there are various groups of people who are more connected to one than the other. You know, you and I had an instant, very dynamic dialogue over through nature, through the palm tree. But the essence, or the vibration that you're talking about, both are the same, right? Essence or vibration. When I speak about them, of the temple, I'm not sure if it was the temple of Philae, temple of Isis, temple of Mother Mary, the Mary energies. That's very particular to people who have woken up, very attracted to the Mary energies, because it is this new energy, this new divine feminine powerhouse that rests in those in those temple energies.
Mhm.
So,
That's probably the one that I needed in that moment. So yeah, I guess what I would call our connection is synchronicity, because every time the synchronicity has been really aligned in the flow of my day whenever you've popped up, including the first time I had the download from the flower when you said that I just got the medicine. And funny you just mentioned the palm tree again, because I went out to open a coconut, and I don't do it very often. I have a big fear of knives, you know, maybe that's past life stuff, but I do know how to do it. But in that moment, I chopped open a coconut, and there was a perfect heart shape into the coconut water, you know, the hole that I made. And my mind was so blown that it had occurred, that
right.
while I chopped the second one right afterwards, I was so in awe. I was like, how is that possible? I just chopped it once. And right in that moment, as I was in the awe, it did it exactly the same. So I had two heart openings staring back at me, and I think I sent you a picture. So I love the fact that they're coconuts and the blessing of the palm tree. Is there something you can share with us about its vibrational message?
Well, the palm trees, definitely. I mean, there's different ways to look at the coconut. It is fascinating to me, this hard shell, and it cracks this, and then it becomes white and soft, and you know, it cracks all problems open in a way. You know, it just cuts right through. It feels more like Archangel Michael. But the palm tree you're referring to is the one I think I posted about this as well, and this is how we started to connect. And nothing is coincidence. So when I was this love that you feel is interdimensional, and so this is what the palm tree talks about. Coconut's slightly different, but also speaks about this, that no matter, you don't need to, with a little trust and tuning into yourself, you're able to connect to the higher dimensions. And when I made that vibration out of the palm tree, it was very unexpected. And I was sleeping under the tree. And I'd been wanting to make this particular flower essence, but I never saw it in bloom when I was on Roatan, and I was at the airport in San Pedro Sula, leaving 5 hours. I said, and you know, I just sat at the airport. I said, I'm going to go outside and lay under this tree and take a little nap. It was a palm tree, and I opened my eyes. I'm like, that's blooming? Is that a bloom? I was, I was half asleep, blooming. And it just suddenly it became totally alive, and it was like, yes, make an essence out of this now. And they all started to communicate, and I could clearly see the that we are not alone, and that in this case it was again the Hathors who, once you connect with them, they'll show up in the least likely places. And they downloaded a huge crystalline matrix almost. That's where it all kind of like, yes, this is what we do, you know, this it does not have to be just on the earth plane. Broaden your vibration and you will see beyond. So this is coconut is basically is a great start also of like cracking that hard nut when there's still a hard shell, of saying, I don't trust it, I don't believe it. And there you go. You crack that coconut, and what came up is a heart. it wasn't all that difficult. You know, I mean, this is so amazing.
Yeah.
How this happened. So it relates to the palm as well. And I made another little one, the 3-nex palm, which is you know, I think palm in general is about a lot of hope. And even in the 11th hour, you know, there's just if you can't find your support here on earth, then reach higher. It's there.
Hmm.
You know, and it's all inside of you.
That was actually one of the questions I have. What would your go-to rescue remedy be if there was just one essence or one flower or plant?
That's a tricky in a way. It depends on what your fears are based on, but I think palm, definitely the tika palm, because it shows you anything I call it tika, and it shows you anything is possible. It would not be one remedy. It would probably be a combination. Lavender also, and lavender is not just to calm you. You know, it's also to step out of your comfort zone. It helps you step out of your comfort. And so whatever the dilemma is why do people people speak about lavender as, oh, it makes you calm. Nobody goes further. Well, that's not true. People do go further than that. But why is it that lavender is so soothing? Because it makes you see beyond your comfort zone. And once you hold that, lavender holds you by the hand in a way. That's how I describe it to people. Let that flowering lavender holds you by the hand, and step over it. Step over your lack of trust or whatever the fear is, because it's all fear based, what holds you back. And so those are the two. Then there could be a protection essence that protects your shield. It could be one of the yarrows, you know, which has been written about so much that I don't have to go into that right now. But the harsh environment, Joe Pyeweed, is like, it'll help you soften. And also it helps you see, Joe Pyeweed could be one of those, and that's more from this area where I'm in right now, is New York. Joe Pyeweed speaks also about like your contribution. It's not just the outside world. Also, like, what is your part in this? What is your part in the fear? Why are you keeping it alive? Why are you not willing to step out of your comfort zone? And why are you not willing to crack that coconut? Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, and so it softens. Mm-hmm. And so it becomes a dance between those 4 essences that I just described. It really starts to flow and tie into each other. As I'm talking, I can feel it going.
Yeah, me too. And it's like, it's supportive trust. You know, it's like we have to, and when people say, oh, you just trust, it's like, trust? That's so scary. What if you're walking out on a tightrope? What, are you just going to trust? Like, you need to have that support, or that someone is holding a pillow underneath, or our hand, or a rope that we can lean on. That's more like, okay, I'll trust if I can feel that, even that unseen support. So there's sometimes these nuances, like you're describing, how you need all these other aspects to really arrive into the trust until you can do it yourself, you know?
Yeah. Well, and then one of the first lessons I got when I woke up, and I really was living a very, you know, I was living in New York City. I was living a very unconnected life with myself. And I enjoyed my life. It wasn't a bad life, but it was also non-fulfilling. And the trust, so one of the first lessons was more like, there is no room for doubt. I kept hearing that. There is no room for doubt. Every time I wanted to go back to, I'm not trusting this, I don't believe this, there is no room for doubt. And so it's very important. And I'm actually literally now in the middle of this big trust aspect, which I'm moving to a different part of the country, but I don't exactly know where I'm going. And I'm actually leaving, I keep saying in 2 weeks. Now it's in about a week, you know? So it's a very short time frame. And I do know I'm going to Redwoods, or, you know, the West. I do know I'm leaving in about 10 days, 2 weeks, but I'm not getting the minute I say, let's plan it a month in advance, I get no. And I also got a message. So it's I'm very guided, and I follow the guidance and I follow the trust. And it's like, why do I have to, can't I plan ahead? Because I think a lot of people right now are going through this. They don't know where left from right, and everything is what they used to succeed in no longer works. And they're losing their footing because the whole world is reversed in a way. And so I was also again told I have to do this journey so that I can understand, like the wounded healer, so to speak, so that I'm through the experience, I can understand that the people, what they're going through when they're going through this big upheaval. It all relates to the flowers as well, but it is very specific to my journey. So not only did the house sell and all my furniture is gone, another cat died. I mean, everything's falling apart. And I am learning to stay centered. And most of the time I am centered, but sometimes I'm not, just like everybody. I'm still human. And I'm going on this trip. I bought a little trailer and trying to fit everything in there. And trust that it will all be well. And miracles are happening, one after the other. It's beautiful. Just trust the coconut.
So what was the impetus of you going from selling your house to moving and not knowing where you're going? What was it, a guided thing that, oh, it's time for you to go and you don't need to know where you go? Or how did you know?
Well, interesting. I actually am also phrasing it a little wrong. It's not that it was my house. It was the house I was living in. I was renting it. And the house was sold very rapidly, and I knew that was going to be sold. And so it sold faster, and it was cash buyer and really rapid. And I started to look in this area for another home, and I was shocked. I didn't want to be here anymore, and I love it. I love Dutchess County. I'm upstate now, and I love it. In the winters, I don't. I do like it in the winters too, if it's only like 2 months, but not 6 months. It's quiet and nobody's here, but the realization, and that's when it hit me like, wow, I'm leaving here. And then, I mean, it was, the rest started to be, once I started to trust that it was all unfolding according to a much bigger plan. I didn't know how I was going to pay for it and anything. I mean, within 2 weeks, I had to find a new place. I had 2 cats, and it's summer, and where do you find a new place? And so one miracle after the other, my old neighbor showed up and said, well, you could stay at my place. I'm not there anyway, etc. He showed up at the yard sale. I didn't sell anything at that yard sale, but I did find a house. And so 2 weeks later, I was in that house, and now I'm moving on from there. And got a trailer. It was also lined up, actually, just last week, got that trailer. And I kept thinking, how am I going to pay for this? And it was also like, don't worry about it. And guess what? I'm not going to worry about it. It happened. And I don't want to even put this in this interview, what exactly happened, because it's amazing. And it's just so amazing. That's all I can say. I mean, it's just because it's taking us away from the flowers a little bit, but once you start trusting, how everything unfolds right at the exact right time.
Oh,
just trust.
Yeah.
Choose it.
I think these are really, I think it's really important for you even to share that, because as we mature, we want more stability, we want more safety, we want more foundation. So it's so inspiring to hear you be so willing to see, oh, I love it here and I'm leaving. Right. And I'm not doing it because I'm getting something better or this big promise, but to really be in that trust. So that's what's really inspiring, that it's possible, and we don't need to know. We don't need to know. And that's the hardest thing to go against our mind that wants to warn us.
Yeah.
But on that same note, I'm going to have to share a little flower essence story that leads to an unknown miracle just like that. And that is, I made some essences. I mean, I've been making them only for a year now, but I hiked to this very faraway place here on the black lava, new earth, to this old piece of land that wasn't touched by the lava, and there all by itself was this bush, this napaka bush, which has these little white flowers, and they only have like half a flower, like they're missing the bottom petals, and there's this beautiful Hawaiian story that goes with it. And I was like, had this whole experience, so the flowers came with me. I didn't have anything to carry them, so I put them in my bra so that they wouldn't be crushed. And I was just walking along the black lava coast, and suddenly on the big open deep blue ocean, two whales started jumping, which they're here often, but I never see them on that coastline. Not once have I ever seen them there, and I walk there all the time. And they started having this whole dance and slapping their tails like 60, 80 times. And so I just invited that energy in, into this heart space, into where the flowers were. And later when I took some pictures, and later that night I looked at the pictures, and the high noon sun did a ray touching the whale's tail in the image. I mean, there's so many layers. So in essence, and a week later, I saw that the singer Toni Childs was doing a concert yoga class here. She's a singer I loved in the 90s, and I had all her CDs and always put her music on my mix tapes and CDs. And so I ended up meeting her, and I brought her essences. I mean, I haven't even followed up on what she's done in the last 20 years, but we had this huge connection. And when I said to her, I have this essence for you, and it has the whale energy, and she wanted to know all about it. So that was in February. She completely resonated with it. It was the correct medicine for her. Mm-hmm. And fast forward 6 months, I just found out this week that I'm going to co-host a retreat with her in Australia on rites of passage, and she's planning to do this whole underwater concert to the dolphins and whales at Hervey Bay. I mean, this is so far out of anything I could write, and it happened. And what was the bridge to it? The flower essence. And like the code to it was the whales. And I still don't know if it's going to happen, but it's being offered, it's in development, and so we shall see. So that's the power of just following and listening and being open to the possibility.
Amazing story. I mean, that's beautiful, and it will happen in maybe differently than you suspect. I have an amazing story with Nopaka as well. And it will probably, I mean, amazing. It's just like I'm sitting here smiling because I was like, unbelievable.
Would you care to just chime in on the Nopaka and just share?
Yes. Well, I made that. That's actually when I made it in 2012. Also, the other half of the flower, and I did look up what the story about it. But to me, it spoke more. It was right before my little April, before my awakening. And I do believe it ties into, I didn't see a whale then, but South Africa came back to me where the whales were dancing and this and that. And the unbelievable connection, interconnectedness on Earth between species. Between species that's what I think Nopaka specifically speaks about. And my guiding cat, came through when Nopaka, and basically, I mean, we all speak about this twin flame and this and that, and she brought me the message in a way like Nopaka speaks about this twin flame, but it's not necessarily the twin flame. It's more this connection again that we're connected to other animals and other beings, and no matter how we tap into it, and there is this love affair, this dance happening, not necessarily with another human. That you just start to see the love in everything you do through Nopaka. And and by you telling me this, it's actually becoming more and more clear. And it was right before, and then she started to talk about dying too. I don't think this is a flower about death, but it was more like, be the new you, you know, you don't need the other half of you to be to support you. It's already there, that kind of. And then a month later, she died. And that was maybe a blessing in disguise also. So it's a personal story, but it just confirmed to me again. Once I understood the message, however, with Naupaka, the bottle, it's one of the few essences that never made it. When I shipped it, it broke. I don't have it. And it's still, the story was on my website for the longest time, but I would say sold out. Not that the essences don't really sell. It's more the work I do with them that do. So, and I'm not
I
about.
got you covered. I'll send you a bottle of mother essence.
Yeah. So now and when you bring up Naupaka, I'm like, you see how connected we are. And the first thing I saw were the southern right whales in South Africa when you mentioned Naupaka, like how they are, part of this matrix of raising our vibrations. We are supported.
Yeah.
We are supported, trusted. We are so supported. I'm just a human, but a cat can do it. A whale can, the waters can do it. And you start to meet the right people and connect with the right people that you should be meeting with, that bring you positive love and equal sharing moments.
I love that you're bringing in the interdimensionality and the interspecies. I think it's really important as far as, the essence, vibration, nature. We're all being supported by flowers or our pets and our animals. And that's often much easier to be supported by than other humans because there's so much condition connected to a relationship like that. You were speaking about the negative and positive thoughts earlier, and I wanted to, I guess if you believe that all negative thoughts or thinkings or feelings lead to disease or discomfort or, the stress that we have and emotional stress we experience, it's a new muscle we need to learn to build to start having empathy for that negative feeling, and B, seeing what's the upside of it or what's the silver lining in it, or, and I feel like we're being asked to do that more and more, faster and faster. And at the same time, some of our biggest beliefs right now in this time are coming up and really rearing their heads in an extreme way, showing you like, oh, this is still my biggest secret belief or fundamental feeling. So, for example, one of mine from my childhood is just a lot of abandonment, neglect, loss, grief, trauma. So, my current thing that keeps popping up is the rejection, I don't exist, feeling disrespected. And so how do you find your courage to be who you are when I'm attracting just feeling invisible or not being seen, or as if, you say hello and there's no hello back, then it's like, am I real? Am I in a body? Am I really here? So that's been just happening to many degrees. So, and if that feeling feels so real, like we have the proof or we're manifesting the proof, how do we flip it to be a gorgeous thing, or how do we alleviate it? So do you think that flower essence, the vibration, could actually nip something in the bud like that?
Yeah, that's specifically what you're speaking about, is specifically what I actually do with it when I do one-on-one sessions, is making you see, or the flowers make you see, that where you have a fear of stepping into your power by becoming a little bit of a victim of all, letting your ego dictate when not to step up. When saying, and I would prefer to go back to the old that is familiar, which is done, it's passé, it's over, but it is familiar, and so give yourself some slack as well. But be firm. So we as humans tend to not go to the unknown. We would rather go back to what we know, even if it's negative. And it's also because it's easier. In the last 2,000 plus years, we've been kind of told, that we will be taken care of. So it's really ingrained. We're only now starting to see that's all bullshit. We're not taking care of. The church isn't going to take care of us. The government isn't. The school system, the medical system's falling apart. So nobody is taking care of us, which shouldn't be really an issue. If you take care of yourself, you won't become sick, etc. But people don't believe it. So the flowers, well, not people are starting to believe it. Actually, let's turn it around a bit. But the flowers are here to kind of say that, making you see how you perceive and how they actually, what some of the things that we have been told and started to believe by our families or the school system, anything, is that if you switch it to 180 degrees, the total opposite is true. And we are capable of taking care of ourselves. And we do not need to be, the opposite of stepping into our power is actually being a victim. But why are we staying in victimhood? Because it's easier. Because we have been told that somebody else will take care of us. And who wouldn't buy that? Because if somebody else is going to take care of you, then you don't have to do it yourself. And so the vibration of these new energies in these flowers are actually giving you this insight. That's the amazing part. When you do one-on-one, you suddenly get this insight like, holy Moses, I am able to do this myself. There's the naysayers sometimes, but in your case, and then there's those people that don't see your beauty, or they don't see that you exist. Walk on by. This used to be important, that you needed recognition by A, B, C, D. And now it's like, you become so powerful that recognition, you start to see that it's not about you. You don't need that recognition. It's more, who cares? But it takes a while to get there. If people don't see you for who you are, then move to the point where you find people who see you for your own beauty. And that takes courage, and that also takes stepping it up a notch. It's kind of saying, I am stepping into the great unknown, which is, what part of me am I not seeing in myself is really the question. When you see it outside of yourself, why am I not recognized? Then, and which I've gone through that certainly, and I still at times have that. Like, why don't people see, how brilliant I am? No, just exaggerated, but what is it about you that you don't see yourself? That's what the flowers ask you. What is it that you don't find beautiful about yourself, or worthwhile, or trustworthy? That's what you'll attract. And if you change it, you will start to meet people like, or I will start to meet, for instance, people like you. The right little points of light start to show up. People who help each other, lift each other up, and find each other across the world, across the globe, in unseen worlds. But you don't need a community right here, like, oh, this is my network here. That's how it used to be. It's now global.
Yeah.
Find each other, and you will. We found each other too.
Yeah.
Isn't that a beautiful example?
Yeah, exactly. Well, off the top of your head, do you have 2 or 3 flower essences you recommend for victimhood in general?
That's so great. There's so many off the top of my head. Like, if you wanted all of them almost, because if you reverse everything. Zinnia, it's okay to enjoy yourself. Many people say they're not allowed to enjoy themselves. And another one would be crocus. When you're grieving, like staying in that grieving, switch it around and say, what's the blessing in disguise about not banana, taking care of others, and especially sick people, and so that you forget yourself. Banana is very important for victimhood. It's more like, take care of yourself first, so that you can take care of the other. Yeah. And so taking care of an elderly or sick person depletes you. And why is that? What are you not wanting to see about yourself? So.
Yeah. So many nuanced things that, make a beautiful blend, it sounds like. I have many more questions, so I want to also not have it go hours, but it's easy. So one of the questions I have also is about people with terminal illnesses, for instance, that are getting a strong diagnosis or are, you know, maybe facing that. Do you feel, have you seen any miracles happen with flower vibration or the power of it with
Yes.
anything you want to share on that?
Yes, the way my training has evolved these last 3 years is I've been presented with certain groups of people who are either fatally ill or, you know, like until I understood the messages, I could move on to the next. And so there was a slew of people that came through that would say, you know, I have terminal cancer, or I have Alzheimer's, or my wife has Parkinson's, and so just to understand that flowers are for that as well, so medicinal and is different. I didn't know enough about the medicine, so I was confused what to do with this until I finally understood. I had ended up working for one lady who had Alzheimer's, and because I used to be a chef, you know, I also have this energy going on with food, so I could watch her closely, and it wasn't about healing her, but it was. I ended up going for walks with her, and there was a specific. She was seriously ill, but whenever she saw me, she would always recognize me, which people were stunned. And it was, I would give her these drops, and I would ask her, like, "Do you think I'm a little crazy with these drops?" She says, "Yes, I think so, but they work." You know, and I wasn't able to explain to her, of course, or ask her what was going on. I could just observe. I couldn't believe I worked for her like 2 seasons actually in the summer to watch it. And it was goldenrod that came up. Poor me, talking about victimhood. Poor me. But it makes you see what the illness is about, and why you've attracted it, but also to understand and how to cope with eventually death, and also to understand more about this, for instance, Alzheimer's can bring you greater understanding of your life journey. Ironically, I mean, I'm mentioning it in a nutshell. This is like a whole study case of that your life purpose at times is not to survive an illness, not to sit back. Another woman came to me, she was 50. She says, "I have cancer and I'm diagnosed stage 4. I didn't even know what stage 4 meant. And so my next question really, besides flowers, I was like, how do you feel about dying? And because, are you okay? And she says, I'm fine about it. And I said, well, she said, but I need to know my life purpose before I die. So but then the issue was she was a doctor and she didn't want people to know she was doing this voodoo stuff in her mind. And she wanted to write a book. And I said, maybe this is your life story, that how to, you know, feel okay about your illness, about death. So different aspect of it. I'm just rambling it off a bit because it's so much more. It's a loaded question, you know. And so she then came back the next year. And first I thought that she had a chance to live. And it wasn't that. It was more like making her understand that she should write about her book, whatever she was going to do. And she couldn't, because then the other doctors, that she was well known, would think she was not okay, you know, writing this. And I'm like, when they're writing your eulogy, it's like, well, we never knew this about her. She's like, she couldn't write that book. And then she says, I started to write a diary, my memoirs for myself. I'm like, there's your book. Mm-hmm. You know, your whole experience, it doesn't have to be published. Mm-hmm. That was her life purpose, to kind of, as a doctor, to kind of say, like, there's a whole other side to this. Mm-hmm. And I'm discovering what it is because I'm faced with 5 more months to live. Mm-hmm. So I'm just mentioning illnesses, that it's not always about curing everybody. Mm-hmm. It's about bringing understanding why they have what they have also. Mm-hmm. That was big lesson for me as well.
Yeah. Well, I think that makes the journey more worthwhile, and what is often the icing of, or that brings us the satisfaction when we have that inner understanding, you know.
Yeah.
It's like the balm to have the aha and the understanding, and it gives you kind of the appreciation for the challenge then.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah, because we relate to illnesses more, like trauma and abuse, etc. Is like generally, like that's what we usually think needs treatment. But when it comes to illnesses like this, they're just as traumatizing. It's just a very different idea we have about it, which is not necessarily, it's part of illusion. It's not necessarily always what we think is what's going on. It's not necessarily true. But I do, having said all that, I do believe that all illness comes from, trauma of some sort, and that you can cure everything. I do believe it. And I've experienced some of it myself, because the wounded healer, but not everybody understands what it's so deep. You can't always understand what it all means, because you have to be really speaking to a very specific audience that you can really heal yourself. And I believe Bach said that. Dr. Bach, you can heal thyself. You yourself are your own problem. That's not my statement. Yeah, that's his.
I believe it too, and we can assign meaning to what resonates for us.
Yes, yes.
I have a question around the potencies or differentiation of why one would make flower essence under the sun or under the moon.
Well, that's a great question. I'm not sure if I can answer it. I'm not prone. I'm looking more for the light. So I haven't really made essences under the moon, no matter how bright the moon is. If you want to bring people to the light, then that's I make the vibrations most of the time during the rising sun, hardly during the setting sun even. Although at times I do when it's specifically called. The moon, I haven't been called to do it. I haven't. I also don't have an interest in it, and so it's not my thing per se. Because I don't even have a judgment about it. But it's like I'm so busy with already working with the sun. And I know it works. I'm like, well, let's maybe the next phase will be starting to make moon essences. But there are obviously, probably a few flower essence producers who make moon essences.
Mm-hmm. Well, surprisingly, after I was shown how to make the flower essences, which is very simple and anyone could look it up online. Interestingly enough, I would be called to a flower and then know that it would be a moon essence that night. And then I would check the astrology, and it would usually be a very auspicious time, like during the Star of Bethlehem, which hadn't occurred in 2,000 years. But I didn't know that intellectually until it's like, oh, well, here's a night essence. And here on the Big Island, we have this incredible sky that's so potent, and the Milky Way, looks like a huge cloud hovering over us all the time. So I think it is maybe location specific too, that this is getting potency from the grandeur of the starlight. And
yeah.
But I was just curious personally if you get guided by the flower, or if there is a specific.
Well, yeah, I can answer. I have made quite a few full moon essences during the night of the full moon on the island of Roatan, and as well as, and especially these important full moons that were taking place the last 2-3 years. Mm-hmm. So I have like 6 or 7 of them, just to capture that energy. But to add a flower to it, that would mean 2 different energies. So the intent would be both the full moon, so and then also the flower. So that's actually, that's a good way to do it. And it's great that you've discovered like how to make a full moon essence, and enhancing it with the flower. That's a great thing too. But full moons often bring out, the deepest, darkest not often, I think always, right? Like that's when it's more potent, when whatever is still standing in your way can emerge. And so the dark, I don't see flowers as having a dark side. So bringing them in to enhance that moon, I think, is a wonderful idea, but it's not necessarily that is. Then you would mention, this is an alpaca, and I made it under the full moon of August 27th, 2015, or whatever, so that those two energies that you start to understand once you start reading about the meaning of that moon at that time, you start to realize that's exactly what this is about. Mm-hmm. That Nopaka was about meeting your, trusting your all humans on earth, whatever, just saying something. Yeah.
Well, what that's bringing up for me while you're saying it is that the work I do with people with emotional, emotions and clearings, that the night essences maybe are supporting more the work of the unconscious, and what some of people's shadow is. And so to maybe help them integrate with ease, moving through that emotional, like the flower holding your hand through your shadow. So maybe it's practitioner specific too, because that's the work that I'm more guided to do, is working with the negative emotions.
But that's great. Our polarities, there you go. I make sun essences and you make moon essences, and beautiful.
So I do know you mentioned that you were a chef for 30 years or so, and that also brought up curiosity for me as far as food as medicine, and how we consume that, and how have you bridged those two worlds in a way with the energy of cooking and nourishing ourselves and the vibration of that. How is that showing up in your life?
Yes, I have. I mean, when I first got my new job title 3 years ago, I was overwhelmed. I had a catering business. I was just cooking. I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I was just doing it as a profession. So I was sick and tired of it. And people had told me that they would get better when they were sick, or that the clients would sales would be improved if it were a business gathering or this and that. But I was just burnt out. And so I do know that I have been told that this energy also comes through food, of course, But if you do it without love, then that comes through at some point as well. So I said no to chefing, like drastically. I was like, I almost felt I had to, I've got this new job, the flowers are talking to me, and now I am off. And my full attention is focusing on healing people using nature. And ironically, before hotel school in Belgium, I did attend horticulture school. I was always into the plants as a kid already, and herbs. But it came back, and I only now see, especially last year, that because of my training as a chef, mixing foods, and it's very ethnic what I do, how I used to cook. And it's like making a blend with flowers. It's like making vinaigrette to me. It's like finding the right balance, and I love making people feel better and happy, and I love to feed them, and they start to feel better. Just I can notice it myself, even in my presence, because it's the same intent. This food is made with love. So that's energy that's in there. And when it's food, and then when right now there's a lot of lying going on about what's organic, and even the farm stands, 5% is organic very often. But they say it's organic, and it's being deceived about it and knowing it. And that really hurts me at times. I'm like, I don't feel good eating this food. But when you eat food made with love and grown organic, don't you feel better? So it's, I don't know if it's me per se only. I think it's a general, like what, you know, nature can do, but I am using it. I think combining the two very well. I would not put flower essences on food.
Mhm.
I would put them in water
Right.
and pop soda maybe, but not in food. Different vibration. But you could do, once you discover that intent can change your life, you just put that intent in your soup bowl.
Yeah. I mean,
That,
that's like Dr. Emoto, putting that, speaking the intention into the water, and whether that's your soup or your tea, it's
yes,
the blessing of it and the
yes,
intention of it,
yeah,
recording
yeah, yeah.
that. So what are some surprising ways that you can use flower essences? Besides,
Surprising, yes. Um, well, I have, so as a chef, I was already making flower essences, as you know, in 2006. I was certified in 96. I was introduced to Bach. And I started making blends. And so I was working traveling at times with clients who had a lot of money. And um, major business meetings would sometimes take place at somebody's home. And then they would ask me to come in person. And I would then say to, I mean, my life was very different back then. I would say to the butler, like, spray this in the room, before such and such comes in, so that the mood will be a little happier than. And so this butler, who was from Peru, said, I don't know what's in that bottle, but I think I want some of that. He's like, Mr. Such and such is very happy today. And he says, and every time I sprayed, and he's like, I've been spraying it all. And it was like, nobody knew. And it was like, so and of course you can't, I don't want to put drops in people's glasses, but it was just lightening up the room is what we really was the intent. And so for somebody who was totally actually very connected spiritually in a very different way to the earth, but also very devoted to his boss, he was just like, this is amazing. This really works. And also I've seen people get up and heal faster, like get up and bedridden, and suddenly it's like, I don't know what you put in your these mix. Some stories are a little more drastic, where somebody innocently says, can you make me a little blend? And then the next thing is like, holy shit, I sprayed it in my room and I've never had a fight in my office. And I walked out steaming. And I've decided to take care of myself. This is very recent. This happened to somebody. Mm-hmm. I still have to call and so the whole career switched. He's like, now I know what you, and he responded, it was a guy actually, who said, I know what you mean by changing my life, and I will do it. Thank you. But another case is somebody who she wants to leave her her life, and it sometimes involves kids as well. So that's not always easy. And then how do you keep helping people to pull through, to stand by themselves without devastating their whole environment?
Yeah.
So it's definitely has also sometimes been miraculous, but at times it's been very
like disruptive, like it almost like they needed to take the step despite themselves, almost.
I think it would have been in the making anyway, but this was just like, okay, you've got a support system here.
Yeah.
A little slap in the face, but here's your support system. And then those people do come back and say, I think I need a little more of what you gave me. Mm-hmm. But like after everything that happened, yes, because I needed to hear it. That kind of, you'd like to hear it better from flowers than from the person.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's really, they have nothing against you. It's like, this is what you need to do to better your life. Mm-hmm. And here we are to help you.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, I think we need to, time-wise, wrap it up a bit. And I just wanted to ask you, what is a vision you have for yourself right now, or for yourself in the world?
Oh, there's such great questions. I don't even think about. I'm in this moment for sure. My vision is getting into my camper in a week. Where shall I be in a week? Will I be in Iowa? Or will I be in Pittsburgh? Or will I be in New York State? So the vision is to create my own life as I see fit, as it suits me, as I can live a beautiful life for myself. And I do see it in the West. And this vision is becoming real, one step at a time. But I am in no rush to plan it a year in advance. And I'm making it an adventure. I wanted to do this trailer trip. I'm moving into a camper, or have actually moved into it. And I've wanted to do this for a long time. And here I am. It's manifesting. And it's going to be one great adventure.
Beautiful. Well, I wish that for you and support you fully, and look forward to witnessing all that transpires as we witness each other. And if anyone wants to connect with you or get a hold of you, I will be having your contact information in the comments of the video. So thank you so much for doing the work you do and responding to the call and being such an amazing model of trusting and following guidance.
Well, thank you for making this available. This is so great that you reached out and said, let's do it. So great.
Well, I really
so wonderful.
Chat, and I really hope that people get the essence of the beautiful vibration that has been emanating from you during this whole sharing, and the trees behind you. So aloha, New York, and aloha, Annemarie.
Aloha, Hawaii, and thank you, Veruschka.